Magandang araw mga ka-PTech. Welcome po sa ating session number 21. So kung hindi ka pa nakakita ng ibang aming mga videos ay pwede mong tignan ang aming channel para po makita lahat ng ating mga sessions that were provided in relation to the upcoming principals test or the NQESH 2024 this May. So this will already be the 21st session that covers different topics along the PPSSH. In particular, ang topic ngayon ay nakatuon doon sa part 2 ng ating mga frequently asked questions provided to us by the Commission on Audit Region 11. So the slide that I am using right now was actually uploaded by the COA Region 11. And kumbaga binibigyan lang po natin ng context para po sa ating DepEd na mga context. So again, the upcoming test will be this May 2024. Yung ating mga Category B, Category C from the last exam ay hindi po pwede na mag-apply for this 2024 exam. The only qualifications na hinihingi para sa mga fresh applicants ay ang ating mga head teachers and master teachers and the T3 for 5 years. So ito yung mga bagong mga developments po natin. Yung ibang mga divisions or regions ay nakapag-post na at tapos na po yung kanilang orientation and we're hoping that yung iba po sa inyo ay nakapag-apply na on process na po yung ating application. So we would like again to request that if ngayon mo lang nakita ito ay you can subscribe to our channel so that you can be updated with all of the different information pertaining to the upcoming examination. Alright, let's start off with, since this is already part 2, we will be starting off with question number 19. So medyo mahaba po ito, kaya ating pong dinisect so that it will be easier for you to look into the details of the different provisions under the COA rules. Again, tatanungin ninyo kung alin yung domain kung saan ito papasok. Ito po ay papasok under domain number 2, the management of school resources. So question 19, is it allowed if the chairman of the inventory committee is also the chairman of the disposal committee? Will it not violate any rule for effective internal control system? We're talking about the different committees here, the inventory committee, and then the disposal committee. Tingnan natin ang sinasabi ng COA. There are no specific guidelines setting restrictions on the chairmanship of the committees related to the property and then the supply. However, sabi nga ng ating COA, the inventory committee is composed of 2 or more employees including the supply or the property officer or the custodian, depending upon the context or the extent of the property accountability in a particular agency. You have to remember that we are in a school and maaaring hindi lagi natin narinig itong mga inventory committee dahil kung maliit lamang yung school, usually narinig lang po natin ang ating bids and awards committee and at the same time yung ating inspection and acceptance committee. Usually, the inventory committee is headed by the administrative property, and such official is not designated as chair of the disposal because he is just a member of the disposal committee. So malinaw naman po yung pagbanggit dyan na hindi naman sila po pwedeng maging chairman of both because automatically the chairman of the disposal committee, hindi siya pwedeng maging chairman ng disposal committee primarily because yung membership ng isang supply or property officer ay miyembro lamang siya ng disposal committee. Okay? Although siya ang kumbaga tumatayo na kumbaga chairman. Siya yung the inventory committee is usually headed by the property officer. All right? How are textbooks disposed of? So, malamang ay nakapag-dispose ka na rin ng libro or naranasan nyo rin po na mag-dispose ng ating mga unused na mga textbooks. So, ano nga ba yung policy ni COA pagdating dito? Under the policy guidelines on the proper distribution, care, recording, retrieval, and disposal of textbooks, with reference to Depit Order number 14, series of 2012, ito yung binabanggit niya, na yung textbook disposal ay yung supply officer or the property custodian should identify obsolete. So, ito yung mga conditions para ma-dispose yung mga libro. They should be considered to be obsolete, damaged, or worn out, no? And be able to submit the inventory to the division office, copy furnished, the instructional materials council secretariat, no? Kung meron man. And then the principal or the school head should ensure that all the textbooks or the manuals for condemnation are no longer in the inventory list. And then afterwards, the division office, in coordination with the disposal committee, shall notify the schools on its approval, no, of the disposal. And kapag ito ay nai-recommend na, no, for the disposal by the disposal committee, ito yung mga provisions para magamit natin or may dispose natin yung mga libro. Number one, shredding, tearing, or cutting. Walang textbooks na po pwedeng i-dispose as a whole. Yan ang karamihan na nagiging problema dahil hindi natin alam technically yung mga provisions na ito. But in the actual examination, may tendency na ito ay makita. But in practice, hindi natin nagagawa kasi kapag dinispose nga natin, hindi na natin sinishred, no? Shredded or cut paper may be sold to paper mills, manufacturing plants for recycling. So not the entire book. Okay? Pangalawa, donation to teachers, students, and parents who may wish to utilize old books, no, as reference materials for school projects, for instructional aids, or to the community and the barangay who have reading programs. So dalawa yun, ano? Question number 21, or related question pa rin ito. For the national government agencies, can the equipment from LGU be included in the disposal? Or can we dispose of properties that were turned over to our agency like vehicles, equipment coming from a national government program like the GEM project, or properties that are not under our agency name? Related naman ito. Ang sagot doon ay yes, no? If the equipment is recorded in the books of the agency. Okay? Kahit na nanggaling ito halimbawa sa LGU pero nai-record na ito sa libro ng agency, then the manner of disposal will be under the agency, no, kung saan ito na-receive. The agency can include the unserviceable equipment in their disposal. No naman if the equipment is still in the books of the source agency. Halimbawa, yung sasakyan ay galing ng LGU at ibinigay sa division office pero hindi tinurn over yung papel kasi nakalodge pa rin siya doon sa libro ng source agency, then hindi po pwedeng yung agency na tumanggap ang mag-process, no, nung kanyang disposal. In this case, the agency user has to return the under-serviceable equipment to the source agency and the latter shall do the process of disposal. So maliwanag yan, no? Ayan. It should be noted that prior to disposal, ownership of the assets should be clearly identified to be that of the agency. Okay? Question 22, how is real property appraised? No, real property naman na ito. Although hindi masyadong applied ito in the case of DepEd because usually naman ang mga real property natin ay kung saan lang nakatirik yung ating mga paaralan at hindi naman ito hindi naman natin ito dinidispose, no, or ano. Except lang kung under litigation yung property, then that's another case. May mga ibang mga provisions naman doon na po pwede na gamitin. COA manual on the appraisal of the government properties does not cover real estate, antique property, and works of art. However, it is stated that antique property and works of art shall be appraised by the National Museum and real estate shall be appraised under a set of guidelines. Furthermore, it is stated that Part 1, Section D 3.1 of the Manual on Disposal of Government Property, or NBC 425, that the real property shall be governed by the DBMDNR DPWH Joint Circular Number 1, dated September 30 of 1989, that the disposal of their real property shall be done in coordination with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Kalupaan ng pinag-uusapan dyan, mga real property ang pinag-uusapan dyan. Once again, hindi ito masyadong applicable in DepEd because yun nga, ang context nga ng DepEd ay ginagamit natin lahat ng ating mga real properties. Okay? There were perceived issues by some agencies, no? With this COA Circular 89296 on government property disposal. It was alleged that they were having problems disposing their idle but serviceable properties because of this particular provision, that such assets should be divested either through public auction, negotiated sale, barter, or transfer to the government agencies based on their appraised value. In the sense that reporting the sale of unproductive state assets at their appraised values has hampered rather than facilitated efforts by the government to dispose of these idle properties. Ang classic example nito, mga kapitek, no? Yung in-appraise yung property pero napakataas ng appraisal niya at walang halos gustong bumili. Ayan. So, yung appraised value napakataas. Pag i-bid out mo yan through a public auction, walang bibili. No? Kasi nga, halimbawa, yung mga junk properties na or junk materials, ang appraisal ay napakataas, ay pagdating sa public auction, halos walang kukuha niyan. So, matatambak na naman o matitengga lang yan. Also, some of these agencies commented that rather than continuing the imposition of an ineffective set of rules, the government should be better off selling them at discounted prices that would attract more buyers, which then would enable the agency to convert these properties for productive or commercial use. If it were not for the appraised value requirement, more could have been disposed and more cash could have been provided to the agency. If it happens that our auditees also have the same sentiments, how would we reconcile the challenges encountered by our auditors to our stringent regulations on the property disposal without deviating, no, from the objective of the COA circular guidelines? So, ang sagot dyan, to address these challenges encountered by agencies, there is a need to capacitate the personnel involved in the disposal of the unserviceable equipment of the agency. In determining the appraised value of a particular unserviceable equipment, COA provided the manual and appraisal for government properties to guide the agencies. The appraisal may be referred to the COA technical service through the audit team for a particular review. So, hindi naman direct nito, no? Kasi nga, standing guidelines pa rin yun, mga kapitek, kaya wala tayong magagawa. Rather, ang nangyayari doon, natatagalan yung proseso ng ating disposal. Okay? Natatagalan yung proseso ng disposal. Kasi nga, kapag masyadong mataas yung appraised value, babalik na naman yan sa COA kung walang nag-bid. No? Inilagay natin for a public auction pero walang bumili, hindi nag-bid. Ang mangyayari is that babalik na naman yung papel kay COA, i-reappraise po niya para makita kung ano ba nagiging problem, bakit hindi bumenta yung appraised value na through a public auction. Okay? Question number 24. What is the validity period of the previous appraisal value of a similar property? Okay. The minimum set value should only be good for 6 months. If the property remains unsold after 6 months, then magkakaroon ng reappraisal. Ito yung binabanggit natin kanina. Has COA standardized the useful life in terms of the number of years for government vehicles, computers, or printers? Ayan, magandang tanong ito, no? Dahil nagagamit natin ito sa school. Lalo na yung ating mga computers, mga printers, mga ganyan, even mga laptops, no, na ginagamit natin sa school. So, ito yung ginagamit natin. Under the depreciation of Section 10, no, of the Government Auditing Manual, if I'm not mistaken, Volume 1, under Section 27, depreciation, the PPE gradually loses its ability to provide service, no, over the course of time. So, kaya nga, nagkakaroon ng or there is this provision ng depreciation na tinatawag. Because of this, its cost needs to be distributed on a systematic basis over its useful life. No, the allocated cost is referred to as depreciation. The depreciation charge for each period shall be recognized as expense unless it is included, no, in the carrying amount of another asset. For example, the depreciation of manufacturing plant and equipment is included in the cost of conversion of the inventory. So there are three factors that would be considered, no, in determining depreciation. One, yung initial cost. Number two, yung useful life niya. And number three, yung expected residual value at the end of its useful life. So tatlo yan. Initial cost, useful life, and expected residual value. So let's try to look at the estimated useful life of some common. Kapag land improvements daw, yung PPE over the useful life of the asset to which improvement was made or the useful life of the improvement if significantly shorter. Pag infrastructure assets, 20 to 50 years. Pag buildings and other structures, 30 to 50 years. Machinery and equipment, 5 to 15. Motor vehicles, 5 to 15. Motor vehicles for military, 3 to 20 years. Trains, 10 to 20. Aircrafts and the ground equipment, 10 to 25. Watercraft, 10 to 25. Pag furniture, fixture, and books na nasa 2 to 5, 2 to 15 years. Okay? Other property, plant, equipment that were not included in there, nasa 2 to 15 years. Okay? Based on the above lifespan, the entire entity shall prepare the specific estimated useful life for each asset based on its experience on the life of its PPE. Okay? In the absence of the disposal committee, who will conduct the disposal of the PPE? Ayan. Who can become members of the disposal committee? Ito yung provisions niya. The creation of the disposal committee is mandated by law under EO number 309 dated March 8 of 1996. Okay? So, ang authority or responsibility for the disposal or the investment shall be the full and sole authority, okay, for the divestment, no, or disposal of the property and other assets owned by the national government, LGU and other government or controlled corporations and their subsidiaries shall be lodged in the heads of the departments, the bureaus, the offices of the national government, the local government units, and the governing bodies or managing heads of GOCCs, who shall constitute the approval or the appropriate committee or body to undertake the same. So again, ano yung reference po natin dito? We are looking at the reference on EO number 309, dated March 8 of 1996. So we refer to that. Question number 27 tayo. For semi-expendable items like monoblock chairs, is there a need to wait for the proper disposal process? Can we just dispose them immediately because of space consumption? Ganon din yung mga vehicle spare parts. Paano daw gagawin? The proper disposal activities or processes must be followed in accordance with the manual on disposal of government property because certain documents are needed to be accomplished and submitted to the disposal committee to support the disposal. Kasi hindi mo naman po pwedeng basta-basta lang may-dispose yan kung hindi siya dumadaan ng proseso. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan ay ma-accomplish, no, yung IIRUP or the Inventory and Inspection Report of Unserviceable Property. This form covers semi-expendable equipment or materials and non-expendable supplies kagaya nga ng monoblock chairs and other related items. So hindi pwede na basta-basta itong mai-dispose. Kailangan dumaan lahat ito under the one process. IIRUP should be accompanied by any of the following: no? Individual survey report, list of missing spare parts, stencils of chassis, no, engine number kapag sasakyan, and current photographs in two positions. What if the equipment is missing? How to account for unserviceable properties if it is missing? Unserviceable property can no longer be located way back 1990s. What to do? Ayan. Problema ito mga kapitek, lalo na kapag hindi nagkakaroon ng reconciliation yung PPEs sa book of account ng accountant natin at saka ng ating supply. No? Pag hindi nagtatama yung kanilang ng kanilang record, ibig sabihin there's something wrong, hindi nagre-reconcile, subject to COA yan, subject to COA audit or nagkakaroon ng AOM or Audit Observation Memorandum for that matter. Ayan. So the disposal process starts with the submission to the disposal committee of the required forms by the accountable officials in possession of the unserviceable property sought to be disposed. The forms to be accomplished presupposes the actual possession of such property because an actual physical inventory and inspection is performed first on the physical and operational condition of a property which is existing. The government properties can no longer be located, may not be instantly considered as unserviceable, since the determination on the actual condition of the item subject for disposal requires physical examination of the supply officer and the disposal committee. Hence, this unlocated or missing property shall be accounted using the accounting policies for loss of property as stated under Section 41 of the government accounting manual. To wit, no? When a loss of government fund or property occurs while they are in transit or the loss is caused by fire, theft or other casualty or force majeure, the officer accountable therefore or having custody thereof shall immediately notify the commission or the auditor concerned, and within 30 days or such longer period as the commission or auditor may in the particular case allow, no, shall present as applicable for relief with available supporting evidence. Ito yung mga binibigyan ng consideration kapag ano, like say for example, lost in transit or the in transit or the loss is caused by fire, theft or other casualty or force majeure. Okay, mga bagay-bagay na po pwedeng maging dahilan para humingi ng relief of accountability yung accountable officer. Ayan. So, tinitreat yan according to that manner, kahit na matagal nang nawala, dumadaan pa rin ito sa process. Okay? Sabay na yan. Do all assets have rating components? For example, yung computers and laptops? Yeah, no? No. Manual on the appraisal of the government properties except real estate. Enumerated and identified the following equipment with major component ratings to it. Ayan. The vehicle, passenger bus. Ayan. So, hindi kasama the computers, tools, and other fixtures, no, based on their scrap value kapag ito ay considered to be for disposal. Okay? Except lamang ito mga nabanggit like the vehicle, passenger bus, heavy equipment, AC, typewriter manual, dental equipment, motorcycle, and others. They are enumerated and identified the following equipment with major component ratings. Right? The rest, kapag computer, wala na. No? Under the scrap value na yung kanyang equivalent. Numerous unserviceable items, do we still need to make PAR or ICS on them? No, according to the GAP, no, because it provides that, no, the government accounting manual provides the forms on the property acknowledgement report and the inventory custodial slip and define its purpose as follows. For the PAR shall be used in the supply and or property division unit to record the issue of PPE to a particular end user. It shall be maintained by the fund cluster. It shall be renewed every 3 years or every time there is a change in custodianship or user of the property. Kapag ICS naman is a form used by the supply or property to issue tangible items amounting to less than 15,000 to the end user. So, ibig sabihin, kapag yung amount ng equipment ay more than 15,000, ang ibibigay po natin na document ay PAR, no? Property Acknowledgement Receipt. Pag less than 15,000 naman, ICS ang ating ibinibigay. Ayan. And, meron pang nabanggit dito, no, na baka hindi natin nagagawa. Ang PAR ay nire-renew dapat every 3 years or every time na nagkakaroon ng palitan ng custodianship or user of the property. Pag hindi naman nagpalit ng user ng property, then kailangan mag-renew ng PAR every 3 years. Ang ICS naman is a form used by the supply, no, kapag nagbibigay tayo ng nag-i-issue ng mga supplies that are less than 15,000 yung value. Malinaw yun, ICS versus the PAR. In addition, the preliminary documentation that should be prepared by management for the disposal of the unserviceable government properties are as follows. Yeah. IIRUP, report on the waste material, inventory report, photographs, property ledger card, location, and so on. No? Depende kasi yan sa konteksto kung ano yung dinidispose natin. Okay? Pero, again, ang pinaka nakikita natin na common dito yung IIRUP at saka waste material report. No? Ito yung mga pinaka-importante na mga documents, no, pagdating sa school that would support, no, the process of disposal. What do we need to do, no, for those properties that are still serviceable but no longer in use like computer monitors? Can we include them in the disposal? Yeah. So, Part 2, Section B of NPC 425 pertains to the conditions in the determination of the disposable property. Okay, take note ha. Una, property can no longer be repaired or reconditioned. Pangalawa, property whose maintenance cost uh, of repair more than outweighs the benefits that it will be provided to the agency. Pangatlo, property that has become obsolete or outmoded. Pang-apat, serviceable property that has been rendered unnecessary due to change in the agency's function. Panglima, unused supplies, materials and spare parts that were procured in excess of the requirements. Pang-anim, unused supplies and material that has become dangerous to use. Okay? So ito yung mga conditions that would determine kung ang property ba ay pwede nang i-dispose o hindi. Very clear ito. Alamin natin ito mga kapitek, no? Lalo na kapag hindi ba lang ikaw ay nagre-review lamang para sa iyong pagpasa, but at the same time, pagka ikaw na rin ay nasa posisyon at humawak ka ng isang school na malaki, for example, at isang implementing unit, then kayo are you are being monitored directly by the Commission on Audit. So, importante alam natin yung mga bagay na ito so that we will not be in a hot seat later on kapag nagkamali tayo ng procedure. Next, question 32. What to do if the parts of the vehicle to be disposed of are used in another vehicle? Ano gagawin daw natin dyan? The parts that are used in another vehicle must be documented, indicated on the list of the missing spare parts, duly certified by the supply officer. No? Yan. Yan yung hinahanap daw. Question number 33. What if the highest bid is lower than the computed appraised value? Will there be a violation of the disposal guidelines if the buyer's quotation is lower than appraised value? Yan. So, if the highest bid, ang sagot natin dyan ay ganito. If the highest bid is lower than the appraised value, then the auction is considered as unsuccessful bidding. Nagkakaroon ng failure ng bidding yan. Complying bidders fail to meet the minimum bid price. So, yan. Automatic naman yan, ano? So, yung minimum bid value ay hindi nakuha ng highest bidder. Ibig sabihin, failure ng bidding. Ano pa yung mga dahilan? Paano nagkakaroon ng unsuccessful bidding? There is no or bidding participant. Only one bidder submitted a bid tender for each lot. All bidders failed to comply with the terms and conditions prescribed in the invitation to bid. Ayan. Complying bidders failed to meet the minimum bid price. Mga kapitek, yung minimum bid price, ito po yung ibinigay sa atin ng COA na appraised value ng property. So kung appraised value ng property na nilagay for disposal ay nasa 20,000, ang minimum bid price ay dapat nasa 20,000. Kung ang highest bidder ay umabot lamang ng 15,000, automatically nagkakaroon ng failure ng bidding. Alright? Question 34. Is the appraised value the minimum amount set for bidding value? Sabi na dito, the NBC 425 provides a setting of the minimum value as follows. Yeah. Once all items in the Part 1 and Part 2 RWM or IRP have been computed and the total appraised value is determined, an appraisal report shall be prepared by the representative or to be forwarded to the requesting agency through the disposal committee chairman for appropriate consideration. In case of conflict in appraisal, the disposal committee shall deliberate on the appropriate appraised value that the government shall set as the minimum bid price. If the committee cannot arrive at a consensus, the chairman shall adopt an appraised value which he deems most advantageous to the government, based on either of the following. Number one, the highest appraised value submitted by a committee member, or the average of the submitted appraised values plus 10%. Ayan. So, pwede naman mag-set ng minimum value. How will I record a donated vehicle with residual value, however the vehicle is still serviceable? Ayan. So, kapag donated yung property, nagkakaroon ng, ifa-follow natin yung ating Section 12 of Chapter 10 under the Property Planning Equipment Government Accounting Manual, Volume 1. Sabi niya dyan, the cost of the PPE acquired through donation without condition shall be taken up its fair value that if at the date it is acquired. All expenses incurred in connection with the donated assets such as delivery and installation costs shall be included in the amount recognized as asset. The fair value of the PPA shall be recognized as income from grants and donations in kind. Question 36. What if the property to be disposed of is still serviceable but not being used by the agency? Do we have to prepare the waste material report? Again, as stated in the NBC 425, one of the determining factors of unserviceable property is that it has been rendered unnecessary due to the change in the agency's function. Kahit na serviceable yung property pero hindi na nagagamit dahil nagbago na yung function ng agency na yun, then pwede na siyang i-consider as an item for disposal. Is the bank responsible to conduct the bid for the sale of unserviceable property? Who will conduct the bidding? Is it the existing bank or the disposal committee? Again, ito yung clarification dyan dahil baka magkaroon ng problema yan sa ating mga schools later on. The DPM-NBC was issued to guide all heads of the departments, bureaus, offices, and agencies of the national government, state youths and colleges, GOCCs, and all other agencies concerned to use the manual on the disposal of government property for the sole purpose of disposal undertakings. On the other hand, RA 9184 applies to the procurement of infrastructure project goods. Considering the different mandates of the committees constituted under the DPM NBC 425 and RA 9184, the bank created in RA 9184 does not include in its scope and functions the function of the Disposal and Appraisal Committee. The bidding on disposal will be conducted by the bank at the DAC, but not the bank. Okay? So again, the Disposal and Appraisal Committee or the DAC shall perform the procedure in the disposal, including the determination of the winning bidder, but not the bank. Because the bank will be responsible for the procurement procedure, hindi yung pag-dispose po ng property. Alright? Disposal process, again, meron siyang sinusundan na procedure, no? Whether it is in the division or in the regional. Okay. Inspect or authorize the department's agency, set the final price value of all disposable property, and recommend to the head for approval the manner of the disposal and the conduct of the public bidding. Again, it's the DAC, but not the The chairman and members of the committee. Who are the chairman? The disposal committee chairman calls the meeting of the committee and initiates the activities in the disposal process. In cases of conflicts or differences among the committee members, especially regarding varying appraised values, the chairman shall make the decision or the final decision as to which recommendation shall be submitted to the head of the agency for approval. So kagaya din po ni BAC, hindi rin naman nagde-decide on its own ang DAC dahil ang head of the agency ang nag-a-approve pa rin ng lahat ng kanyang mga recommendations. What can be used in lieu of the property ledger card which is not being maintained by the okay. Accounting and property records to be maintained for PPE. The local accountant shall maintain the subsidiary ledger cards for each group of PPEs including work and other animals. Subsidiary ledger cards are including the following. I think hindi masyadong applicable ito dahil usually for the elementary school, lahat ng property ay nakalodge under our division office. Except for the implementing unit na meron siyang sariling accountant at meron siyang sariling supply officer. Alright? Okay na ito. Okay, now how much will be the bidder's bond for the prospective bidders? Meron nga ba? The bid bond per lot, or as the case may be, which shall accompany the bid tender is presented at the time of the opening of bids, shall be required from each bidder and should be at least 10% of the minimum bid price set by the government. Kaya kapag ang bid bond ay sinabi natin naka 50,000 yung ating minimum bid price, ang bid bond po natin ay 10% of that. Ilan yun? Alright? That's it for our part 2, no, mga kapitek. Medyo marami pa yan. We will be having for the part 3 of the disposal procedure. Again, ito yung acknowledgement na yun. We acknowledge this document that since it was provided through the website, no, of the Commission on Audit Region 11. Alright? So again, maraming maraming salamat po sa inyong panunood, and we hope to see you again for the succeeding videos para sa ating ongoing, no, na preparation para po sa ating NQESH 2024. Mga kapitek, I'm inviting all of you to please share and subscribe sa ating channel, and you will be provided, no, with some exclusive contents coming po from the PDEC. Alright? So, that's all for this video. Maraming maraming salamat and magandang araw.